headlines.
Reminding you, please, in the name of God, get together and make sure that the party is in charge.
NAS leadership tussle. President Muhammadu Buhari appeals to newly elected members to avoid mistakes of 2015.
House of Representatives tells federal government to stop the importation of fish into the country.
National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons on a quest to stem the tide of human trafficking in Nigeria.
The two agencies tasked with combating this crime in both countries work together to achieve maximum results.
And Nigeria to join other ECOWAS member countries to operate a unified biometric capture identity card soon.
And the news in full, and we begin from the National Assembly, where President Muhammadu Buhari has made a passionate appeal to the returning and newly elected members of the House of Representatives on the platform of the governing APC not to allow a repeat of the 2015 mistakes regarding the election of presiding officers for the 9th National Assembly.
State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports the president was speaking at a special dinner organized in their honor at the presidential villa.
The interactive dinner provided the opportunity for President Muhammadu Buhari, as well as the returning and newly elected APC members of the House of Representatives, to enrich each other's thought process on the best way forward towards achieving a more peaceful, stable, united and prosperous Nigeria. This, the president said, is necessary in order to avoid past mistakes of allowing people that do not mean well for the country occupy strategic leadership positions critical to national growth and development.
I have a nasty experience in 2015. Nasty in the sense that just like this election, our party has the majority in both houses. But the members of the party in the Senate allow themselves to be divided into two, have to be thrown off, and PDP finally that they are in charge, not the executive. And one of the worst cases was that in one of the years, it took 7 months, 7 months for the National Assembly to pass the budget. Are we working for the nation or are we working for ourselves?
To get it right,
that the party is in charge. For whatever reason, don't allow yourself to be cut into pieces and mismanaged. Have respect for yourself. Keep the trust given to you by your constituencies. And remember that ultimately, whether you believe it or not, you are going to appear before God and answer for your responsibilities.
APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole, who spoke in the same vein, said with 223 members in the 9th House of Representatives, the governing APC can neither go into coalition nor share what belongs to it with the opposition in terms of leadership.
From the lessons we learned from what happened in 2015, we are determined that in 2019, we will not repeat those mistakes. We will draw the appropriate lesson from those mistakes and we will move on. So I am confident, sir, that this night we have very committed Nigerians who are hungry to deliver on the promises that Mr. President made. The logic of partisanship is that we discriminate positively, particularly against forces of retrogression. There is no apology. Neither Your Excellency, Mr. President, nor the party expect that the National Assembly should be a rubber stamp. But what we expect is constructive engagement and constructive contestation.
Some of the members-elect spoken to described the engagement with the president as appropriate, timely, and reassuring.
The party after taking into cognizance all factors, adopted the leader of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, for the position of Speaker, and also placed effectively the position of the Deputy Speakership to the North Central Zone.
The next level is guaranteed for the APC in the Ninth Assembly, inshallah, because there's going to be a strong synergy between the executive and the legislature.
A similar meeting was earlier held with the APC senators-elect. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And from the Senate, the Electric Power Sector Reform Act Amendment Bill has been passed. The bill seeks to prohibit theft of electricity and its supply chain infrastructure in the country. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onko tells us more.
Legislative business in the Senate at Tuesday's plenary kicked off with a letter from President Muhammadu Buhari stating reasons for withholding his assent on the Nigerian Correctional Service Bill.
Section 44D of the bill, which seeks to fund the special non-custodial fund, with 5% of all fines paid to the federal courts, violates the provisions of Section 81 and 84 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Matters of infrastructural development continued on the floor as Senate considered and passed the bill for the amendment of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, No. 6 of 2005.
To punish any person on conviction who have engaged in willful and criminal damage to public power infrastructure, installation, equipment, and facilities.
The Chemical Weapons Prohibition Bill was also passed.
Signatories to the Chemical and Biological Weapon Convention are required to establish or designate national authority that will serve as a national focal point to ensure effective coordination.
Senate passed the National Board for Technical Education Repeal and Reenactment Bill.
Will promote the institutionalization of professional and technical skills development for sustenance of our national economy.
On the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
6 reintroduced bills were passed for first reading, including the National Assembly Budget and Research Office Bill. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The lower house of the National Assembly has urged the federal government to stop the issuance of fish import license as it is inimical to the economic diversification policy of government.
And the lawmakers at Tuesday's plenary also requested the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the Bank of Agriculture to provide incentives to local fish farmers to boost local production and also create jobs. Here is National Assembly correspondent Lamia Ali with her story.
The lawmakers, while debating the motion from Representative Jonathan Gaza, expressed worry that fish importers have turned Nigeria into a dumping ground for fish and related products, some of which are below approved standard.
If this trend continues, the gains that have been recorded by local fish farmers and employment that have been created will be lost.
It becomes easy to govern your country when people are not hungry, when people have economic power. Those are the two things that will safeguard anything.
Steps are being taken to phase out completely fish importation within the next 2 years.
The House requested the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the Bank of Agriculture to make available incentives to local fish farmers to boost production and in view of additional advantage of job creation. An ad hoc committee is to be set up to investigate all licenses granted for fish importation within the last 1 year. In the meantime, 7 bills were passed at plenary. However, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors of Nigeria couldn't scale second reading after extensive arguments for and against its passage. 7 reports were considered and adopted by the lawmakers at the Committee of the Whole. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And let's now turn to the judiciary. And the FCT High Court sitting in Maitama has dismissed the embezzlement charge filed against the suspended Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Munir Gwazo, by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Commission.
And the court ruled that the severance package paid to him is in line with guidelines of the commission, Olabode Arewa reports.
The Independent Corrupt Practices Commission accused Munir Gwazo of using his position as the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission to corruptly appropriate 150 million naira to himself as a severance package after he had worked there as an executive commissioner. Also charged along with him was the second defendant, Zakwano Garba, who was accused of aiding Gwazo to misappropriate the funds. Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf said the charges of criminal breach of trust were not sustainable because the guidelines which established the Securities Act gave the board authority to formulate guidelines for a smooth conduct, and this included fixing the severance package of the Director General.
The court followed the principles of no case submission as enunciated in the relevant laws. So justice is served. We are very grateful. We are indeed thankful.
Meanwhile, at the resumed trial of former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf issued a warrant to the Department of State Security, DSS, that it should produce the former NSA in court on the 24th of May 2019. The court order was made due to complaints by both the prosecution and the defense teams that the EFCC has been unable to produce Sambo Dasuki in court. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
And in the meantime, a court of appeal in Lagos has affirmed the conviction of a Congolese, Kutumisana Mbuto Blaze, and a forfeiture of $551,225 to the federal government. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had arraigned the convict on April the 21st, 2015, before a federal high court in Lagos. EFCC had urged Justice Ibrahim Buba to convict Blaze following his failure to declare the said money in his possession to the men of the Nigeria Customs Service at the point of entry into Nigeria. Dissatisfied with the verdict of Justice Buba, the convict approached the Court of Appeal in Lagos for redress, asking the appellate court to set aside the judgment of the lower court. But in a unanimous judgment by 3 justices of the Court of Appeal, the appellate court affirmed the verdict of the lower court, saying that the said money be forfeited to the federal government.
And to other matters, now Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed was guest at the Voice of America corporate headquarters in Washington, D.C. Anthony Folsom reports on the minister's outing at the VOA and other activities.
On arrival, senior officials of the Voice of America African Service were on hand to receive the minister and straight into the studio. Then, the interview for both radio and television platforms got underway. First shot was on the February 23rd election.
When you look at the presidential election, even in those states where we lost governorship election, we won very handsomely in the presidential election, which means that the president's achievement was appreciated by almost everybody.
Then, the Zamfara state situation.
The last 2 weeks have also shown quite a lot of improvement. I think the twin approach of the government.
Building the economy, corruption, just as the question on are there sacred cows in the President Muhammadu Buhari's government came up.
Today, if anything, corruption has been driven underground in Nigeria. It's no longer on the surface, it's no longer on the table. But the other way to look at it is that, you see, one way of corruption fighting back is also to try to smear everybody.
Nigeria and the United States relation was not left out. With this over, and the host expressing satisfaction with explanations provided by the minister walked into the Georgetown University, where Professor Scott Taylor, director of the university's African Studies program, was waiting with his students to engage the minister. The students spared the minister no breath as they fielded questions every curious child will field at a parent. The minister, on his part, towed the fatherly line, responding to all that seemed to be agitating the minds of the students by explaining what the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration has achieved in 4 years and its focus for another 4-year term.
Make no mistake about that, the government will not negotiate the issue of corruption, because there's a correlation between corruption and underdevelopment, between corruption and poverty. So it will still be the bedrock of the agenda of the Mr. President. And then insecurity and economic prosperity are also linked.
In the end, the students, most of whom are of Nigerian descent, born in the United States, engaged the minister with a renewed hope of looking forward to coming back home to Nigeria upon graduation, knowing that they have a country they can call home. In Washington, D.C., Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And this is the news at 10 on the network service. We are broadcasting live from Abuja. We have more news to come. And it's good news for civil servants, as Accountant General of the Federation reassures workers of continuous payment of promotion arrears.
A national agency for prohibition of trafficking in persons on a new quest to stem the tide of human trafficking in the country.